when you knocked upon my door. Early this morning, woo, when you knocked upon my door. And I said, hello Satan, I believe it's time to go. Me and the devil, baby, we be walking side by side. Me and the devil, woo, we be walking side by side. And I'm gonna be my woman till I get satisfied. Alright, that was Me and the Devil Blues by Robert Johnson. This winter we are going to be covering the essential works of Robert Johnson. This is going to be in conjunction with the ebooks volume 1 and 2 that I'll be releasing through my website at deltalumusic.com. I have already released volume 1. Robert Johnson ebook features 10 sides, 66 pages long, and it covers some of his most famous works. Crossroad Blues, Stones in My Pass Away, Kind-Hearted Woman, Hot Tamales and the Red Hot. Just a great selection of songs, easy to understand. The ebook has easily broke down parts for the introduction, the verses, solos, there's chord diagrams. This book is my finest work yet. Please click on the link in the information settings just to kind of view the contents of it. But it is on sale right now on my website. And I thought that it was very important that we take a lot of time to study the music of Robert Johnson. Obviously, Robert Johnson was a very enigmatic figure in American history, let alone music history. And his work encompassed, it was a comprehensive collection of the artists that came before him. He has a lot of elements of Charlie Patton, Lonnie Johnson, Son House, Skip James, and a plethora of others that came before him. He incorporates it into his music. So when you listen to his 37 sides, it's like a historical course of Delta blues music. Robert Johnson was a master. He was a virtuoso. And he was all over the place as far as style of music. There was a lot of early jazz influence, a lot of country, folk, everything, you name it. He was very versatile across all three tunings, utilized open G, vestibule tuning, and standard tuning, drop D tuning, so he was all over the place. And obviously he was a very controversial figure in history, as he supposedly sold his soul to the devil to gain mastery of the guitar. And it's an incredible legend, rooted down with kind of the Creole traditions of voodoo, black magic, whatnot, which also was part of blues culture indefinitely. For those of you who are looking to make your pilgrimage to Mississippi, I myself did it almost 10 years ago. It was probably the greatest trip I ever took in my life, was going down to New Orleans and then visiting through Mississippi. If you haven't checked out my video at the actual crossroads, be sure to check it out. It was a crazy event, amazing story. My GPS got hijacked, and it caused us to veer off road, and I believe get us to that spot. So you never know. But anyways, enough of the talking. So in playing Robert Johnson's music, what we want to do here is any guitar will do for the matter. You played just a regular acoustic guitar will do. Now I like to utilize plastic finger picks. This is just a personal preference. Now I think it's essential to have a thumb pick. I play a finger picking method is more of like a claw method, which I'll go into detail. If you haven't looked at my beginning finger picking blues video sets, please be sure to look at that before you watch any of my other videos. Also, if you want to follow along with this video currently, having the ebook in front of you is the best way to follow along. Everything is laid out to the clearest possible manner that you can think of. And that's what I'm reading here as I teach the music. It's very easy to understand, cutthroat tablature, a breakdown piece by piece. So if you haven't already checked out my website, www.deltalumusic.com, check out the store. And it's the Robert Johnson Volume 1 book that I've recently released. 10 songs in there covering his most essential works. So, an acoustic guitar, got the plastic finger picks. Okay, and this song, Me and the Devil Blues, is played in standard E tuning. It's not pitched higher up or flat from E. It is at E standard, and it's played in the key of A, the key of A blues. So you're going to have a typical rock progression, 1-4-5 progression, and I talk about those concepts repeatedly in all of my books. 1-4-5, meaning A, D, E, is what those chords correspond to. So, in playing Kind-Hearted Woman, let's tune our guitars together so we're in pitch. I am in pitch with the original recording, so if you wanted to play along with Robert Johnson, you would be in tune. So let's go ahead and play the top string, which is going to be an E. Okay, let's play the 5th string, it's going to be an A. My 4th string is going to be a D. My 3rd string is going to be a G. My 2nd string is going to be a B. And my bottom string is going to be an E. Let's play an A chord. Alright, so that means we're ready to go. Now, as I've demonstrated in a lot of my videos, the technique to have on the right hand and in finger picking motion is what you want to do is you want to have your right hand, you want to have the palm, the outer palm of your right hand, you want that to nestle like this and position your hand like this to where the thumb is resting atop the 5th string. The thumb should be positioned there all the time. And the thumb is going to be responsible for playing the 6th, 5th, and 4th string, sometimes the 3rd string. The thumb is concentrated on the bass strings. Your index and middle finger are going to pick upward the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd strings. And then you'll play the thumb and the fingers together in a sort of finger picking motion that's very common to Delta blues music. Robert Johnson, in these series of works, Me and the Devil Blues, Kind-Hearted Woman, Phonograph Blues, Dead Shrimp Blues, these are all songs that are played in this key of A format, and he's utilizing a technique called the dead thumb technique. This is hugely important to get down pat with playing Robert Johnson's music. Now, what a dead thumb is the thumb with this position which I talked about. The thumb is going to be palm muting the 5th string, and you are going to play the 5th string open while palm muting that very string itself with the outer lining of your thumb. So you're going to play this palm muted 5th string. This is so the bass pulsates and dictates the rhythmic tempo of the song. It keeps you in tempo as you play everything. And it's hugely important. If you don't have this constant dead thumb technique, playing his music will be very difficult and it won't sound right. So, for example, in Me and the Devil Blues, he plays a lot of diminished chords over here at the 7th, the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th fret, diminished, right? So when he plays these diminished chords, he has the thumb, he plays these chords, for example, like this, followed by this pulsating bass tone. You're playing it like this, and then you play the chords with the index and middle finger. And obviously we'll get around to how to play the chords, but it's imperative to understand why this dead thumb technique you have to have it down pat. And that's something that we're going to cover over the course of this video. So that's the essential mechanisms that you need for the right hand and the basic pre-understanding to Robert Johnson's music. So Me and the Devil Blues is going to be utilizing interesting jazz-inspired chords. The beginning of the song, there's a chord diagram in the ebook looking at the diminished chords. And the diminished chords are going to be starting here on the 8th, 9th fret, move up to the 7th and 8th fret, 6th and 7th fret. That's an example. He also plays a variation of an A7 chord here, another jazzy kind of, and then an A diminished. So that's something to expect. Alright, so let's go ahead and start with the introduction, and this one is really straightforward, shouldn't take long to wrap up. Alright, so the introduction is going to sound like this, and I'll start it off. Alright, so it's broken down into two parts. If you have the ebook available with you, you'll see the diminished chord. He starts on a C sharp diminished chord. So what you're going to do is you're going to find your index finger is going to play the 2nd string on the 8th fret. So go ahead and find the 8th fret with your index finger. Your middle finger is going to go up to the 3rd string, play that on the 9th fret. And your ring finger is going to play the bottom string on the 9th fret. And this is going to be a C sharp diminished. Right? And now you want to play the 5th string open, palm muted. This is the dead thumb technique. Go ahead and play that together. Pinch together the thumb and the index finger. Alright? And then in this introduction he goes actually up the neck board to the next, holding this same chording. He just goes up to the 7th and 8th fret, plays a C diminished chord. Then he goes up to the 6th and 7th fret and plays a B diminished chord. So in that introduction, he kicks off first on the C diminished chord on the 7th and 8th fret, and it will be like this. The first two notes are a lead into the 8th and 9th fret on the C sharp diminished. So the first two notes will be like this. 1, 2. So he plays this. He goes into this chord, and then the next two notes, holding this chording on the 8th and 9th fret, the C sharp diminished, he's going to take his index finger and play the 2nd string and then his middle finger is going to play the 9th fret bottom string. So together it'll be like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. One, two, three, four. Then he goes to the C diminished chord, plays that, and then plays again that pattern, the 2nd string to the 1st string. 1, 2, 3. And I tend to keep that, as I'm playing it, I'm pulsating with the thumb. Try to do that. I know it's hard at first with the thumb. So he plays that, then he goes up to the 6th and 7th fret, plays the B diminished. He plays that chord, then he plays the 2nd string and the bottom string. And then he plays the chord again. Before ending on a double stop, you will finger the 3rd string on the 5th fret and then the bottom string on the 5th fret, and that's going to be your A. So in all, that introduction will be like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And try to play that with the thumb. And I'm going to go really slow here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And then I incorporate the thumb. Now the thumb is going to come in naturally when we go further on in the song. So he plays those series of diminished chords, and they're going to show up everywhere in his catalog. Once you learn Me and the Devil Blues, you can play 3220 blues, phonograph blues. You'll understand, you'll start to hear it with the ear, the diminished. These are very common in blues music. So after he plays that sequence, he goes into this classic turnaround in this key of A blues, and it sounds a little bit like this. And what you're doing here, and it's stated pretty clearly in the book, is you're going to have your pinky always positioned on the bottom string on the 5th fret. It's always going to be stationary, always going to be playing here, right? So your index finger is going to be playing that the whole time, and you're going to be playing a combination of double stops. So in this sequence, you have a series of 7 notes, and this first holding is going to be a double stop. It's going to be, you're going to find your ring finger, or whatever finger you feel comfortable, is going to play the 4th string on the 5th fret, and your pinky is going to play the bottom string on the 5th fret. And then you pinch together like this. So you play that twice. 1, 2, and then he does this sort of wind down up the neck board. So the wind down is going to be chromatically done on the 4th string moving up the neck board. So those first 2 notes are on the 5th fret. Then you're going to go either with your ring finger or switching over to your middle finger. You're going to go to the 4th fret, 4th string. You play that twice. Then you go with your index finger to the 3rd fret, 4th string. You play that twice before resolving to a double stop, which is a natural A, the 2nd fret, 4th string. So in all together it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's that classic turnaround in A. And look what I'm doing with my right hand. It's a pinching motion, double stops. And then after he plays that sequence, he goes right into an E7 chord. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A series of 5 or 6 strums. That could be played loosely. Alright, so that's the introduction. Pretty straightforward. So now we're going to move into the verse of the song. And the first verse, namely all of the stanzas, are going to be visiting these diminished chords again. And we already talked about the holdings here. You're going to be playing a combination of the C sharp diminished chord and the C diminished chord. And you're going to be playing them in sequence, followed by a dead thumb pulsating technique, a few notes from there. Alright, and the ebook has it laid out pretty clearly. I have the chord diagrams and everything, super easy to follow and understand. So, the introduction, we learned that, and then he goes into this technique, and it'll be like this. Early this morning, when you knocked upon my door, early this morning, woo. Alright, and that's what we're going to learn here. It's super easy to understand. So he kicks off that stanza with this, the sequence of those 2 chords. He's actually starting on the C diminished chord on the 7th and 8th fret. So you play that with your index finger, and then you slide, you kind of hammer on into the C sharp diminished chord, which is on the 8th and 9th fret. So those first 2 notes will be like this. 1, 2. That's it. You can either hammer on or play them both, doesn't matter. So after he plays that, he plays this bass rhythm, and it's imperative to get down pat. This is the dead thumb technique. This is Delta blues in a nutshell. So what he's doing here is, on the tablature I have it laid out as palm muted X's, and it's a series of 7 notes. So when you play these first 2 chords, you're going to play 7 notes of the dead thumb, and it'll be like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that's all it is on that first stanza. Early this morning, when you knocked upon my door, and then in the original recording he sometimes sits on the dead thumb a little bit. So that first stanza is early this morning, when you knocked upon my door. Alright, so those are the spoken lyrics, and then to cap off that stanza, he plays a sort of instrumental break where he's kind of finger picking on the diminished chords. So after he sings out those lyrics, he goes into this sequence, and it'll sound like this. And we'll go ahead and play that. So that sequence is, you're going on the C sharp diminished, you're on the 8th and 9th fret, and with the index finger you're playing the 2nd string, The middle finger, you play the bottom string, back to the second string. So altogether it's 1, 2, 3. And then you play the bottom string again. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. And then he plays the bottom string on the 8th fret. So altogether on that C sharp diminished, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You've already moved to the C sharp, C diminished. Then you go up to the second string and you're playing on that 7th fret. Back to the bottom string on the 8th fret. You're just finger picking that bad boy across these diminished chords. So that combination is, and then at the end of it, he's going and he's just playing the C sharp diminished chord. He plays that about 4 times. That's on the 8th and 9th fret. So all in all, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So in all, it's early this morning when you knocked upon my door. And that carries across all of the stanzas. So you just repeat that sequence. So again, we've covered the diminished chords and how important they are, and the pulsating technique of the dead thumb method by Robert Johnson. So in the next sequence, we're going to cover the 4-chord position, which is the D7/F sharp chord, which is again pivotal to playing these key of A songs. So we're going to look at that here next.